Hello, good morning. Mga katribu, welcome to another episode of Daily Tribune Straight Talk, where we tackle current issues that matter to each of us. This is Chito, Lozada.
And good morning, I am Teddy Montelibano. We are live on Daily Tribune's Facebook page and Tribune Now on YouTube. Our guest for today is the Executive Director of the British Chamber of Commerce in the Philippines, Mr. Christopher James Nelson. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning to Chito. Good morning, Teddy. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so thank you for being here.
I gave him prior to all the questions, so
20 questions.
Yeah, one of the questions, just maybe for starters, let's talk about this great British festival.
Sure.
You're bringing it back after 3 years. What was the
That will be
absence?
happening in March.
What was the absence? What was the absence all about? 3 years?
Well, of course,
Pandemic.
we've had the pandemic for 3 years. I think also, so the festival ran from 2014 to 2019.
Annually?
Annually, it's always been about March time, March. And it started off, it mainly was a lot of activity within the Bonifacio Global City, BGC.
okay.
Towards the end, I think it was something in Glorieta. So I think there was a desire to look at it again, and then of course you had the pandemic. Now, under the work we're doing with the British Embassy, so it's actually under the Deputy Ambassador Alistair White. He has, come to the chamber, so we're reviving it. It's scheduled for the 25th, 26th of March in Bonifacio Global City. That's a weekend. And we'll be using the opportunity to highlight British brands, the connection between the two countries. It's now the 77th year of diplomatic relations. Relations are very strong between the two countries. Obviously, also, if you look at the current president, he actually knows the UK well. He went to Oxford University, so there's a lot of ties and connections. And what we'll use it for commercially is to highlight British brands, to highlight to people what is the strong connections between the two countries in terms of the products, the services that are going on. And then there will be entertainment, which is going to be organised by the British Council, which of course, well,
Jazz bands or something?
well, first, of course, it will have to feature Shakespeare. You can't have something without Shakespeare in the UK. But yes, you'll have obviously music, the rich heritage of British music, Beatles and so forth. So the programme itself will be with them. So we're very much looking forward to it. It's going to be in the BGC area, so 25th, 26th. It's going to be
everything for free?
The entry is all free, of course. What we're doing is we'll be rolling out to get companies involved. We can't say what the companies will do. Obviously, some of them maybe offer their products. We'll have to look at it. But the real thing is to show and highlight the strong connections. So we're very, looking forward to it. Still a lot of work to be done, I have to just stress. But looking forward. So anybody who's available, please come on the 25th and 26th of March in BGC.
Well, that's the whole BGC or just
No, it's in one specific area. So it's for those who are familiar with BGC, it's between, I think, 5th Avenue and I think it's 7th.
Sure.
And it's the amphitheatre, which people know, and then an area called C1, which is directly opposite the One Central Mall, which is on the side. So those are where the areas will be.
Okay. So
Okay. Well,
why is it being brought back now? And of course, there'll be a lot of interest since many British companies will be there and offering their products. Would there be a meeting with the investors or some?
No, I think it's the whole approach here is to try and highlight those British brands which are here.
Marks and Spencer.
Marks and Spencer is obviously a classic one, but you have a lot of other brands, and it's to show that the connection between the countries is very strong. Honestly, with the time available, we won't be able to bring in new products. Obviously, the previous festivals, and if we have more time going forward, and hopefully based on this one being successful, then we'll do it again next year. then we would look at even the opportunity to introduce new products, because that's obviously the way of coming forward in. But it's to really show, I mean, I think what people see is that the British brands are here. Obviously the chamber itself is over 300 members.
Wow, 300 members.
We're very, but we have
Are
British
these
and non.
British companies?
No, they're both actually. So we're open to both British and non-British, and we're very proud actually that we have a lot of Filipino companies. And the reason we do, and we stress this, is that the chamber, one of the principal works of a chamber is networking. It's connecting business, and the more you have that, the more you have local companies, I think it assists in that. So, and of course they can be, partners with British companies, right? So, yes, very opportunity. I think this one is to get it going. We have quite a tight schedule because obviously we're now on the 7th of February, and of course this will take place in less than 2 months' time.
Okay.
But we'll work hard to get it right, and then of course we're optimistic if it's successful, then it will continue going forward again.
We were talking earlier a little about these developing countries trading scheme that the UK is going to launch this year. You said. Can you explain a little
Sure.
bit
I mean, I
what
think
it's all about?
correct. So first of all, I mean, for the viewers, where we know the UK exited from the EU. The vote took place in 2016 on the 23rd of June, if my memory is good. And the final exit from the EU was the 31st of December 2020. So since then, the UK is not part of the EU. Now, if you look at trading relations, and the Philippines is a good example, the Philippines, with respect to the EU, trades on a scheme called GSP+. So the UK, in a number of instances, we rolled over agreements. So we rolled over GS, and so the UK is still part of GSP+. That allows, of course, continuing flow of trade. Now the UK has taken a look at the developing countries trading scheme, and it believes that, so first of all, this scheme has to pass Parliament. I think it's scheduled hopefully March, April. And then to be obviously rolled out after that, it has to get parliamentary approval. And it will simplify the process. And in the case of the Philippines, it's estimated it should mean that 99% of goods going into the UK is duty-free from the Philippines. So it's almost everything. So the whole idea of DCTS is to improve it, is to increase the trading relation between the two countries. And look, I think it's an assistance. I mean, obviously, the UK also is looking at the Philippines as a very important market. I think trade has now reached over £2 billion for the UK.
Two countries. Yeah.
So that's very significant. And and the thing I want to always say about this is, and I'll bring up one of my other famous points, is, we see the Philippines as an important market. Why? It's 110 million people. Obviously, English is widely spoken. There are 200,000 Filipinos. Most of them are going to be British citizens in the UK, so those ties are there. And what we're looking for is to see the Philippines as a gateway to British companies, not only to do business here, but of course across Southeast Asia. And if we can do that, then we can further increase, foreign direct investment.
Okay. What kind of products would this be? 99% duty-free, user rights, and all sorts of products?
Yeah, it will be. I mean, it's
and
agricultural. I mean, I think principally most of the products going in is agricultural. Yeah, mangoes. But I think what it does do, it gives the opportunity for Philippine companies to look at what else they could do, and to look at the UK as an opportunity in its own right, and vice versa. We are always trying to encourage UK companies to trade and invest here.
Yes. Okay.
So, hopefully in that respect, and I think it will come up, but I mean, it was just yesterday it was discussed again, or in fact today I think there's a hearing, and that's the Philippines to join RCEP, which is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. And we're hopeful. We've been one of the key advocates that the Philippines should ratify. The opportunities are very significant.
Yes. Yes, that's one of the questions that we wanted to ask. Would joining free trade arrangements or agreements such as the RCEP be a good thing for the Philippines to do? And how would our getting into RCEP impact our trade? I mean, our relationship in terms of trade.
Well, I think it's got to look at it this way, Teddy and Chito. So first of all, RCEP is the largest trading bloc in the world with the countries. The Philippines is a signatory. I think it's probably the only one, or maybe only one or two, who've not yet ratified. So if you look at it, what happened was, well, Myanmar is probably because of some political issues, obviously. But in case of the Philippines, President Duterte signed the treaty, but obviously under the way, the system works, in the process, the Senate has to ratify.
The Senate has to ratify.
It wasn't ratified pre-elections, and now obviously it's a priority of Department of Trade and Investment under Secretary Pascual, and today there is a hearing, and yesterday, or I think on the 4th of February, Senate President Migsuberi said that it's a priority and they hope to get it passed, or ratified I should say, during this first quarter. And the reason I think this is very important is that this is access to a huge trading bloc.
Correct.
And also I think if you're looking at the other way, companies who want to come here and invest will say, well, why not, okay, I come to the Philippines, but they're not part of RCEP. Okay. But if they are part of RCEP, then not only is they can come to the Philippines, they can look at what other trading opportunities they have throughout Asia.
Throughout Asia.
So, I mean, we're optimistic. We're very strongly behind this. We had an event the other week on the 24th of January, Economic Outlook. Our ambassador, Lord Beaufils, was there, as was people from the Department of Trade and Investment, including Alan Gepti, who is one of the key negotiators. And they stressed again, I mean, the key selling points of RCEP. So the upsides are there. Now, of course, there will be some challenges. I think principally, of course, it's agriculture. But this is on a very limited line, and there are opportunities elsewhere. So I think the opportunities far outweigh any of the amount. And so, yeah, look, I'm all power to the Senate President, and we sincerely hope it's going to be ratified on or before the first quarter.
Have you expressed this to the legislators or?
Well, we have done. I mean,
friends in the Senate.
We've been very vocal in the media for our support. We've been very vocal at different opportunities, and I'm, also I'm very pleased to say that the House Speaker was courteous enough, and we very much appreciate that. He came to visit. He came to the Economic Outlook in the networking session, so that was very very kind of House Speaker Martin Romualdez. And obviously the House has passed, or they support the ratification of RCEP. And we've mentioned it on numerous occasions. So I think the legislator is very clear that the British Chamber, as one of the foreign chambers, strongly supports the ratification.
There's no more problem with the lower house. It's just now pending with the Senate. No?
It is, but as I said, we have to go on, please.
You're optimistic about that it would be ratified.
Well, I mean, I think a couple of points that reinforce my optimism. So first of all, President Marcos has mentioned it as another priority for him, and that was relatively recently. And at the same time, obviously, in an interview, I think only a couple of days ago, the Senate President himself said it is a priority, and we intend to get it passed on or before the first quarter, which obviously would be the 31st of March. That, similar enough, was the date during the economic briefing, which Alan Gepti also says, we should be looking at that time period. So I think, when you've got the President of the country, you have the Senate President, and then obviously you've got the House Speaker, who, as I said, was kind enough to come and attend our networking event, and very pleased to see him there. And he's, obviously the House has been very supportive. I think we should have confidence.
So that's RCEP. Now, Chito, you want to ask about
Yeah, there's
about the
another
other issue?
another
Well, it's not an
pending
issue, it is a
bill in the Senate.
Maharlika
course,
Investment Fund. Yeah.
The House has
Maharlika.
passed it, the Maharlika
Maharlika,
Investment Fund, and you have expressed support previously to that.
Sure, I
You always
have.
support for it.
Yeah, let me tell you where I come from, and we do support it. So first of all, as outlined by obviously Secretary Drogno, by different members, Maharlika is supposed to assist the Philippines, particularly in its infrastructure development.
Okay.
Now, the concerns raised, and those obviously have also been looked at, and I assume will continue to be addressed. Of course, is corporate governance. It's how will this fund be managed. And they've already expressed it will have best practices. It will obviously take from international auditing standards, and so on. I mean, and I think this is in relation to some issues over other sovereign wealth funds. Now, the whole basis of a sovereign wealth fund, or at least in this particular instance, is can it get and induce longer term investment, right? And I think we all agree that the Philippines needs investment in infrastructure, both of what the classical, what we call, bridges, roads, airports, ports, but also on the digital side, because that's become a key aspect of the digital economy. Now, if you look at the Philippine economy, it grew approximately 7%, I believe.
7.6.
Yeah, and that's a good performance. If you look around the region, that's on the stronger end. Obviously, the economy was significantly impacted during 2020 because of the pandemic, so the contraction, and now we're start to see some recovery. Now, if you look at that recovery, what are you going to use to underpin it and support it? And that is investment in infrastructure.
Correct, yes.
And that growth rate could be accelerated. I mean, particularly on the digital side, I think there's a lot of opportunities there. And another area which, again, to be fair to President Marcos, he's emphasized, and that was on ease of doing business. I mean, how much can we do to reduce red tape? How much can we reduce so that when people want to process, it's approved quickly, that you can move forward? So I think if Maharlika and they've taken on board a lot of inputs, and the overall aim is to develop that infrastructure, yes, we support it.
Yeah, well, and we need to take a break for now, and we hope to talk more about investments and later with Mr. Nelson. So we'll dig more into that topic when Straight Talk returns from a short break.
Nasa kamay mo ang swerte, ngunit hindi ito isang laro na para lang sa'yo. Dahil bukod sa pag-asang maging milyonaryo, ang pagtangkilik mo sa loto at iba pang produkto ng PCSO ay nakakalikom ng pondo para sa mga programang pangkalusugan, tulong at serbisyong medikal at kawang-gawa.
Lahat ng minimitig makakamtan sa PCSO.
Every time I'm on the road, I can expect high performance from Phoenix Fuels. Now with Pulse technology, delivers enhanced power and acceleration to make every trip come alive.
Bago ng mundo for all your pera transactions, all new Bayad.
Viber is the free and secure way to connect with friends and family anywhere. Send messages and make phone and video calls for free. Download Viber now.
So we're back. You're still watching Straight Talk with Mr. Chris Nelson. Before the break, we were talking about the kind of atmosphere that will generate more investments, and the Constitution came into
It's
discussion.
a conversation. No?
Yeah. So there are moves in the House to have the
Charter amendment.
Constitution amended. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, obviously, from our perspective, we are concerned about and would welcome to see, obviously, the removal of the economic provisions or restrictions. You know, the Philippine Constitution has a negative investment list, and these barriers are not there in other jurisdictions. So what we want to see, of course, is increased foreign direct investment into the country. And if that can be done through separate acts, or obviously in the case of if the charter change did go through of the economic provisions, then that would be, you know, very significant, right? And it's our way, and I really can't emphasize this enough, actually, is that, you know, when we go to the UK or have gone and we continue to connect with other chambers there or with business partners or events we do, we are constantly trying to get people to come and look at the Philippines and do business. But as everybody knows, you don't compete in isolation. You're competing against other countries in Southeast Asia, and they're equally, all credit to them, trying to be as dynamic and as aggressive as they can be. So we have to put that into mind, right? We have to look at the advantages the Philippines has, highlight those, and at the same time continue to push to open up the economy. So if that can be done through a separate act, or it's through a charter change on the economic provisions, we support that.
So how do you view the Public Service Act, which was a law that was recently passed, tried to address that? So
It did. I mean, I think, I think a couple of points. So a lot of people worked on the Public Service Act in terms of, you know, wanting to get it passed. So in all credit, it's not just obviously the British Chamber, there are many chambers, the American Chamber, the European Chambers, the Joint Foreign Chamber. So, you know, it's got to be a credit to everybody involved, a lot of Philippine organizations, Freedom for Economic Freedom, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to put that into context as a universal push. Now, the Public Service Act, the bill has passed. To my knowledge, they've not yet issued the implementing rules and regulations. The implementing rules and regulations for the two other acts, which was the Retail Trade Act and the Foreign Investment Act, have been issued. So obviously the first step has got to be to publish the IRR, because as you all know, without the IRR, the law doesn't go into effect. So we need the implementing rules and regulations. I think that's quite challenging because the Public Service Act cuts across multiple agencies. And that's where you obviously then each agency has to finalize its inputs. So I think the Public Service Act has got potential to be very important. but we do need those implementing rules and regulations to be passed.
I'll see. Well, you talked about digitalization of the government services. How important would that be in convincing more investments?
Well, I think it's always, I mean, whenever we did the trade activity in the UK, and I would visit, and I did it for a number of years, the number one question was always, you know, how can I establish a business? What's the easiest way? And of course, you know, digitalization makes things a lot faster. You don't need to go to an office. It can be done online. And what people want, of course, is if they put everything in, they get the approval, you know, quickly and within a certain time. So I think digitalization is important. And I think it's also important because what you want to see here is speeding up the process, right? I mean, for those of you who lived here, I've lived here now almost 20 years, you know, it's a driving license is a prime example. When I first came here, I think I had to go to Quezon City for the first test. Now you can get it done in a satellite office. It was now being issued for 5 years, and I understand when I renew, which of course will be on my birthday, it's going to be for 10 years. And that to me is just a very clear example of improvement, right? Because you can go to a satellite office, everybody wants to get it done, and it's done quickly. Last time I was there to renew mine, it took me 20 minutes. So those are kind of very tangible examples, right? And look, as I said, I can see it as well. I mean, I live in BGC. I've lived there for now many years. They have a satellite office. So I was able to go and do things there, and it was very quick, 10 minutes. I mean, this is what you want to see, right? And so I think the ease of doing business is a tricky thing, and the president again has stated that. It's not easy because you've got to go through and study all the process, right? And particularly when it involves multiple agencies. If it's a single agency, obviously they can control or have a much easier way with their own processes. But yeah, digitalization is very important. Supporting that electronic infrastructure is key. And you've seen it now. Actually, e-commerce has come down somewhat since the economy has reopened. We can tell that. But of course, it's now at a much higher base than it was pre-pandemic, right?
Correct. Yes.
And it will remain critically important. So yes. And you know, if any best practices, I'm sure our government would share it. But we're very looking forward to seeing further reduction in the ease of doing, or sorry, further improvements in the ease of doing business.
A good example is the digitalization in the Bureau of Customs and Ports.
Correct.
There's a lot of resistance there. Well, I can imagine why they're resisting. But how do you want that sped up or?
Yeah, we do, and I think, you know, I'll give you another example. So we talked about the Great British Festival, and that it's going to take place on the 25th and 26th of March. That we'll probably be highlighting on this occasion companies that are already here, their goods, their services, and hopefully if it's successful, and we intend it to be, then in the future one we'll try to bring in new products, new brands. But bringing new products and brands is still quite challenging, right? Clearances and procedures. So these are the kind of things we've got to work on, right? To make it easier, because it's hard to explain to companies, I just want to send a sample to a prospective, you know, trading partner, and it takes a long time to clear. These are the kind of things we need to move forward on. And we got it done in the end, but it does take time.
So that's key to increasing trade.
Yes.
So do you see it, the amount of trade between the Philippines, do you see it, and the UK, do you see it increasing this year or?
Well, it should do. I mean, look, obviously, if you look at trade here, I mean, I've got obviously, so within the embassy, there is a regional international trade director. Her name is Lindsay Gilbert Crouch, and obviously then you have the ambassador, Lord Beaufils, and you know they're working along obviously with the Department of International Trade team at the embassy on a lot of that work, right? We support that. And then, I mean, obviously, to reach over £2 billion is a great achievement. Now, of course, we anticipate and would like to see that figure to continue to grow. And that covers a lot of aspects. I mean, the one that I can talk most about, of course, is the work we've done specifically with British pork, right? Which has grown this year, sorry, for the year of 2022, it grew by over 40%. The year before was 200%, although it's from a smaller base. So the reason for that, of course, is that there has been a shortage of, pig meat supply locally because of African swine flu, but the need to then get and secure food security and food supply. And the UK is not, I want to be very clear, we're not the #1 supplier to the Philippines, but we've seen a significant growth and it's beneficial to both sides of the country. And I think what I wanted to raise here is this is the work that we've done in conjunction with the Horticultural Development Board, that's a trade board in the UK. And they came here twice. Their senior export manager, Susan Stewart, was here in March. Unfortunately, her colleague, Jonathan Eckley, couldn't visit at that time. And they came again in December. Now that kind of shows you the interest, and of course then they build relationships and partnerships with Philippine companies. So that's just one small example of what's helped grow this £2 billion. But we will see it grow, but it requires a lot of effort. It requires a lot of patience and persistence. And if we can do that, I think, there's no reason why it can continue to grow. But a lot of support, and all credit, that's a joint effort of us and obviously the embassy in particular.
Hopefully the Parliament will pass the
I think
tariff
they
scheme.
will.
We have a colleague who wants to know why British pork exports. Why have they done
That's
so
one
well?
of the major exports of
Well,
UK.
okay, it's done well
the
specifically for a variety of reasons, but one thing was that so the pig herds here in the Philippines have been significantly impacted because of the African swine flu. There is not, I think, a final figure, but the estimate is between 40 to 50%. That created obviously a lack of supply, which then of course means that prices will go up unless you increase supplies from other sources. So the tariff rates have been reduced from 40 to 15%, and that's been extended again by executive order to the end of this year, so 31st of December 2023. And it kind of matches together between the UK suppliers because what the Philippine consumer needs has a different requirement in terms of the way the carcass is compared to the UK consumer. So there's a lot of good opportunities. And I think it also comes down to partnership. It comes down to the fact that, AHDB as a trade board has come here, that Philippine suppliers now are, no trading companies in the UK wish to do business. And the reason for that then, and to put it into context, is that the Philippines is now the second largest market in Asia for British pork. #1 is China. I mean, that's quite a significant improvement. And it's a benefit to both sides. It helps the Philippines get good quality British pork, and at the same time, obviously, is a great advantage to UK exporters. So to use an American term, it's a win-win.
What other sectors do you see that British exports would benefit
Well,
the Philippines?
I mean, the most recent thing we did, so we did a virtual trade mission. We're now obviously moving to physical trade missions, but this one was virtual. That was with the Kent chambers. That tended to focus heavily on food and drink. That tends to be a key focus here, primarily because you're 110 million, you've got a lot of consumers, Filipinos are known to obviously love food of all variety, so of course that's an opportunity. At the same time, you have a very strong, drink sectors. So I think that's one opportunity, but there are many
You're
others.
talking of liquor?
Yeah.
There's an English company, I think Diageo,
Mm.
that bought
Diageo.
Done by back. Yeah, Diageo is one of our members. They're one of our platinum members. They've been in the country. We work with them. They've done a great job, and obviously they've now gone and purchased Donna Pepper. So
Have you tried it?
I have not a long time ago, not this morning, of course, but I did have tried it. But I think it is good. It's a very good product. We will,
Good marketing as well.
and good for them. And then, you've just had Inchcape, which is a large UK entity, make an investment into Cat's Motors or Coventry Motors or all British cars. So that shows you there is interest levels here. What we need to do is to get further to expand upon that. I mean, the economic team was just only in the UK recently. They were there, obviously, so the president and a number of the people went to Davos, and then from Davos, some of them went to Frankfurt,
team,
and then from Frankfurt they went to London. It was actually, it was Secretary Jochno, and I think obviously people from Budget and
Philippe
Planning, Philip Medallia,
Medallia.
Bank of Central
Balisacan,
Government.
and Budget Secretary.
Yeah. So, those things have a lot of impact, but we just need to do more of them.
Yeah, I think the Philippine economic briefing that they presented was quite well received.
I think it was very well received.
Very well received, yes.
And all credit to them, and I think it was very well received, very well done, and so all credit to Secretary Jochno, to the BSP governor, and everybody involved. You have to keep it up. It's great. We've got to keep on, more briefings, more
updates, more
interactions, because we live in a very competitive world.
That's true. That's the key word.
I mean,
competition.
so there are others doing it. It was well received, and they did a very good job, but we've got to keep up the momentum. That's part of our role, is to highlight via what we do in terms of exchanges, emails, and so forth on that. I think it's all that.
Well,
Oh, no worry. I wanted to ask one last question.
one
Go
last
for it.
question.
I just wanted to find out. I mean, just maybe this is like a wrap. How could our government make the country more attractive to foreign investors? In which sectors of Philippine industry would you think foreign investors from the UK show much interest in investing?
Well, I think, let me go to a very important sector, and I would say that's the energy sector.
Energy, yes.
Yeah, let's talk
I
about
think
energy.
that's, it's quite interesting. If you look at the energy sector
REs?
in the Philippines,
Renewable energy or
well, renewables. I mean, obviously,
green energy?
yeah. So the UK is very, has a lot of experience in that area. I think the Department of Energy has now said that you can do 100% investments for renewables for foreign investors. That would be of great interest. Last night I had a meeting with two visitors from the UK Export Finance. That's part of the UK. It's a separate, it does report into the Secretary of Trade. And they, of course, look to support UK export by actually guaranteeing in terms on the financial side. So, renewable energy is going to be a key interest, key focus. And I think it supports both ways. Obviously, there's a general desire in this country, as in many, to go into more green energy to reduce the dependence on fossil fuels. And the UK can help in that context. So, yeah, that's one sector that we'll particularly highlight. And I think going forward, there's a lot. I mean, education and training has always been a keen interest of the UK, and again, we can move forward. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. I guess my final comments were this. I think that the interest level or the relations between the two countries are extremely strong, and that's really down to many people. And obviously, we know that the president has strong connections with the UK, and hopefully he will visit sometime. It was good to see the economic team there, I think, with our ambassador and ourselves. And then I think hopefully, the Great British Festival will just highlight those connections.
Looking forward to that. I've never heard. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to trying to get it together. So,
Okay.
okay.
Thank
We
you
can
very
visit
much.
that. Yeah, so there you have it. Thank you so much for your time, Sir Christopher James Nelson.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you very much to both
Thank you.
Chito and Teddy, and it's been very interesting. And to all you viewers, thank you for kindly listening to me.
Thank you for your time. And good luck playing golf.
Playing golf.
That I will need.
Good luck.
Prayers, prayers, and good golf.
Where are you playing? Manila Golf?
Yeah, I got to roll.
Good luck.
Hey,
Good
thank
luck.
you very much.
Yeah.
I hope that was okay.
How about having lunch with us?
I would love to. Another.